Hello, welcome back to the ministry. The Lord gave me a word. It's a really quick word, but it's impactful. It is something that the Lord showed me, and He's been showing me, and I've been trying to put the pieces together. Okay? So, what it is that God has been showing me the words lust. And He's been putting it in weird places, in the middle of words, in the middle of spaces, in the middle of places. And I'll be like, what's going on? Then He showed me the word seduction. I told y'all about these two. But He also gave me Potiphar. The scripture keeps popping up on my phone in relation to Potiphar and how Joseph was accused by Potiphar's wife. And I was looking at that, and the Lord kind of started to put this together in my spirit. Some of you, the test is not yours. For someone, the test has nothing to do with you. For some of you, the test is for your spouse. And the test is something in relation to something that he's dealing with. For instance, if your spouse deals with lust, that's where it's coming from. Now, I already gave you all the instructions as to what to do in the middle of a test, right? But with this information, you have to have the understanding. The Lord showed me, and this is what really got me, because He not only showed me this, and He showed me that Potiphar thing 3 times. It popped up on my phone, so I was like, okay, I need to pay close attention to this. But my father had turned the TV on and started to doze off, and another episode of Bonanza came on. Well, wouldn't you guess it, that one of the characters, which was the son, catch this, of the main character, he gets knocked out. For you, some of your spouses were not spiritually aware of what was going on around them, okay? He darn near gets shot. Some of your spouses have had near-death experiences. Some of you may not have known this, some of you what have you. He got somebody shot at him thinking that they killed him, but they only grazed him. For some of your spouses, there have been wounds, spiritual warfare, and certain things that just barely hit them. And the only reason it just barely hit them is because you were standing in the gap for them, okay? But it dazed them. It left them in confusion. They kept moving, but it slowed them down. And in some cases, it completely stopped them. The guy passed out. In some cases, the spouses went to sleep due to the spiritual injury or the spiritual warfare because they needed to rest, to heal, to what have you. But due to them passing out, the people that found out that they were passed out spiritually attempted to come together as according to the scripture in relation to the 2 things that God hates: deceitfully wicked schemes and rumors amongst the community. And the Lord showed it to me like this: accusation, insinuation, assassination, and character assassination in order to sabotage these men. Because these people found him and decided, oh, well, what I see is this. We got a situation where the guy, he had taken a bounty on capturing 3 prisoners. But in the case, one of his prisoners escaped. So he wanted to still collect the bounty, but didn't have that 3rd prisoner. So here comes the character that's been passed out. He said, just take him. We'll take him instead. Some of your spouses have been in situations where a level of accusation or false evidence was presented in relation to and or was attempted, tried, or they're planning to bring a level of accusation against this individual. You see how that works? Just like, remember, not only did Joseph, I keep getting names confused, sorry. Joseph got taken into slavery, taken captive, because his brother sold him into slavery. Contrary to that, once he gets into slavery, what happened? Potiphar's wife. And it's funny, I found myself being led to a video yesterday by one of the other young women that I used to follow pretty regularly, but her video popped up. In this particular video, it popped up before, but I didn't watch it, and it popped up again, and I'm like, I still didn't watch it, and it ended up being connected to a video I did end up watching, so I said, let me look at it. And she made the point of saying, her name is Dream or something like that. I forget what it is. She used to be Queen Alita. But she was talking about the fact that there was somebody that was looking for an entry point in. That people are going to see you and your spouse together and was going to look for an entry point in. But specifically, it would be somebody that looked like it wasn't a threat. They look to be a contrary opposite to y'all. But the woman in this relationship would do what? Attempt to try to manipulate your spouse into a Potiphar situation. And I found that interesting. But let's get back to the episode of Bonanza. So they put him into chains. He wakes up from his being passed out. And he's like, where am I? Why am I here? It's like, oh, we taking you in. There was a major killing, massacre, something or other, and you're going to go in with us because we need you to be friend somebody, and you're going to be accused of manslaughter. He said, excuse me? Some of y'all understand the enemy wanted y'all to stop praying, stop standing, stop fasting, stop consecrating, because there was an accusation coming to your spouse, and as long as you wanted to sit up there and act like you didn't want to pay no daggone attention to these men, they could set up whatever trap they wanted around him. And the next thing you know, his character is about to be assassinated. Character assassination. But let me tell you this. They take him to a specific location, and even the woman that worked with these people said, I don't even want to work with them. So him and the woman make the assumption they're going to leave. For some people, there are people that are surrounding your spouse, prophetic witnesses that are assigned to make sure they get out. So they left. They set up a scenario in order to make it look like they escaped. But they put it in a flip situation that woman ended up seducing the person that was covering them while they slept. Meanwhile, when they left, they trailed throughout the night in order to get to. In some cases, your spouse has to travel by night in order to get to where he needs to go because he's escaping. And it reminds me of something I heard Trust and Obedience say once, that they're going to take off. They're going to just leave. They're going to leave quickly and speedily in order to get to you because of whatever it is that's going on. Secondarily, they get to the location in order to rest because she tired, she passing out, all that kind of stuff. They finally reach a resting place. God has put your spouse into some places that allow him to rest. Some of us, and let me say this, because the Lord's not having me think about this. Some of y'all been upset because your spouse has been taking so long, but in some cases, through the warfare and fights that they had to go through, God has been giving them resting positions. And in that point, that was a rest for them to be isolated. Some of y'all just didn't take it. For you was supposed to be resting too, but you wasn't taking it. You was too busy. But for them, they needed that resting period in order to gain rest between the next situation occurring. But catch this. Thank you, us kingdom wives. We were the ones that were standing in the gap that gave them the ability to get that rest. Because as we stood and we covered, it caused a chain reaction. For the scripture talks about in 2 Chronicles 20, one of my favorites, that when they sent the worshipers ahead, that an ambushment was sent. Meanwhile, this man's father figured out something wasn't right, because one of the guys that had messed him up, which was probably the dude that had escaped from that bandwagon that they were going to use him instead of, took the horse. And the father saw the horse. There are signs that gave the father understanding. That's why he tapped you to start praying. That's why he gave you the wisdom. Prayers of a righteous man availeth much. That in the prayers of you being righteous, you were able to pray and stand in the gap while the Father went forth to take care of the situation at hand. And the Father went with the brother, Jesus Christ, to go forth to try to figure out what happened. They followed the clues backwards. They were only a few steps behind. God will sometimes stay a few steps behind the situation because remember, Job was allowed to be tested, but God was watching him. So in the midst of all of this happening, they're only a few steps behind. So after them being a few steps behind, they end up catching on to the group that was trying to track the son. And they end up in a shootout with them, but end up tracking them down. And they all end up, of course, culminating, Kairos, at the cabin that the son was hiding out at with the woman because he was tired. There's a culmination happening around your spouse in relation to whatever situation that your spouse needed to fight his Goliath. And in this moment, where it may look like it's going one way, God is going to send in an ambushment. It was a literal ambushment that when they tried to come in to take the son and put him back into the same custody, remember, Joseph went from slavery, ended up in Potiphar's house, then in the prison. So going from incarceration to separating himself from the incarceration to attempting to be put back into incarceration. But an ambushment came through this time, and it was the Father and the Son. Your prayers have sent God and Jesus to go help your spouse to make sure that he is able to take this Goliath down. And in that, they were able to leave, and that the Father and the Son were able to take the third son. Jesus and God were able to take your spouse out of that situation. For God has sent messengers before your spouse to make sure that they were able to come out. Because as you gave God custody of that situation, God sent ambushments and agents of his own to go forth to make sure that your spouse came out of it. See how that works? So he's going to come out of this trial. But when he comes out of this trial, that just like when David killed Goliath, he's got to get the spoils on the flip side of that thing. And you know what the flip side of that looked like? What did David get after he killed Goliath? He got the money and he got things, but he also got to marry the daughter. Y'all get married, y'all. So that's the word that God gave me. So I need you to pray if you've been getting any type of suggestion that there's been any scenario that could potentially be detrimental to your spouse, a trap, a scenario, a circumstance, a Potiphar situation, I'm going to need you to pray. I'm going to need you to consecrate. I'm going to need you to get in the space, in the place with the Lord. But understand, God got this. And when God gets it, He's going to get all the glory for it. So I hope this blessed you. Until next time, much love, faith, peace, and blessing. It is getting dark. That's why it looks so dark on this video. So I'm going to see you in the next one. Much love to you. Bye-bye.